Hi, I'm Ian Munson. I'm Head of Student Services at Keele University.
And I'm Kate Mayer. I'm a Welfare Officer at Keele University and also the dedicated contact for estranged students.
So you guys have decided to be one of our champion institutions and you've already taken the pledge, which is wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about why you did that and what made you want to take the pledge?
Yeah, should I start?
You
Yeah,
start.
I can start. Yeah, I mean we at Keele University, we've done a lot of work over the last few years to really think about how we more effectively support all students. And we invested a lot of time into our planning and thinking about what we were doing for a variety of groups of students, whether they were care experienced, whether they were asylum seekers, whether they were mature students or commuters, whoever it might be. And we really wanted to commit ourselves to looking at the support that estranged students received. And at the start, we wondered where we were going to start with all of that, and then we developed a really strong relationship with some local partners and with Standalone and the work that Becca and her team have done, and that led to us doing some really good detailed planning into the services that we could offer, and ultimately to think about how the students who were coming to Keele could benefit from that support, and that's where I'll hand over to Kate.
So from my perspective, I'm also the care leaver contact at Keele University. So what we found was there was a lot of students coming forward who, although they don't meet the criteria of a care leaver, they still needed very similar support, and that support wasn't there until we were able to kind of look into it. And now we've decided to take the pledge and expand the support that we provide to care leavers also to estranged students who have very similar needs but are also very different at the same time and have very specific requirements as well.
I suppose the thing I would just add to that is there are some things that are just no-brainers. So we're a campus university, we have accommodation for 3,000 students, so putting in place accommodation year-round is just an obvious thing that we would want to do, and that's something that students have told us they want, and so it's a quick thing for us to look at. And the same with financial support, it's an obvious thing to have in place a bursary, but what we want to do now is to really ensure that the money and the financial assistance we provide works for the students. So the next step for us is to be doing some consultancy with our students to see how we can take that a step further.
We'll probably say, why would I give £1,000 to somebody during their education? What benefit is that actually going to give the university? What would you say to those people?
I'd say, I mean, if you speak to the students themselves, you'll find out how much £1,000 is actually going to benefit a student. So it's not a lot of money to the university. Particularly for Keele, we have very small numbers of care leavers and estranged students. So for us, it's not a massive financial burden, but for the student themselves, it makes a massive contribution to their learning, so that they can actually focus on what they're at university to do, to study, to get their degree, to achieve, to be successful, and not worrying about how they're going to fund their accommodation over the summer or where their next meal's going to be coming from. So it's a small thing for us, but it's a massive thing for the students, and all you've got to do is speak to the students to find out how much that's going to impact on their university lives.
One last question. So students in this position often come to you with problems. What do you think are the key issues for these students?
The key issues, I'd say that they come to, and mainly this is how we find out about students who are estranged, is with student finance and the funding implications, and then also leading on from that, accommodation. So it's very difficult for students to evidence to student finance what their situation is, to be able to open up the types of funding that they're entitled to. It can be a very long-winded process, and to have somebody like a support worker at the university to sit with them and go through that can also take a lot of the stress and pressure off them. And again, in terms of accommodation, for students in the general population, going home at Christmas is a very normal thing to do, but if you don't have that option, it's something that universities need to think about, and to be able to provide support for students who need to be on campus all year round, or find accommodation all year round, or even just a kind of a social environment for them to kind of get involved in, so they're not isolated whilst they're at university and can make the most of their time and enjoy their time with us. So.
2 more questions. What are you doing in your pledge? What things do you plan to develop at Keele for estranged students?
Okay, so in terms of our pledge, we're wanting to, the aspiration really is about having a whole university approach. So, you know, this isn't about us as a department in student services saying that we're going to develop a small suite of resources or support for students. We want everyone to be involved in that. So we've dedicated ourselves to putting some provisions in place such that Kate has talked about with regard to accommodation and financial support and having a dedicated contact. But beyond that, what we want to ensure is that every student that we come into contact at any point through their student experience becomes in control of their student journey. So that's really about providing some very particular and specific support. And then looking beyond that, we want to ensure that the entire university community are aware of exactly what first an estranged student is and what the challenges an estranged student would face at any point through their student experience. So a lot of work around training, a lot of work around ensuring that people know how to make appropriate referrals, a lot of work to ensure that staff members are sensitive to the needs of those individuals who are presenting to them and coming forward.
Last question. If there are Keele students watching this video, what would you say to them?
Come and say hello. I'm in the Tawney building in the Student Services Centre. You can email us, very easy to contact, and it doesn't matter whether you've got a problem or not, you just want to make somebody aware of the university, of your situation, just in case something arises. It's very informal advice and guidance, and there's just somebody there that you can come and speak to if you need to. So there's no pressure, it's just there if you need it.